Hi, welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Sharon. On the 3rd of December, U.S. Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe did something unprecedented. He did an intel briefing to the American public in the Wall Street Journal. A few days later on Sunday, he had another interview on Fox News to reinforce his ideas or messages. So what did he say exactly in the article that was so important? Why is he saying all those things now? Well, the main idea is fairly straightforward in his article. I guess you can get it from the title. China is the biggest national security threat. The Chinese Communist Party, or CCP for short, wants to dominate the world in three areas: economy, military, and technology. Ratcliffe said, in the process, the communist regime has engaged in extensive espionage, stealing, and in some cases, outright robbing. Ratcliffe's intelligence shows China blackmails and bribes lawmakers into making policies favorable for China. He said the CCP is targeting members of Congress with 6 times the frequency of Russia and 12 times the frequency of Iran. U.S. business owners have also been forced to put pressure on their political representatives to influence China policies, because had they refused, their Chinese shareholders or customers would have moved their business elsewhere. At least that's how they were told. Things get more disturbing in the area of military. Apart from the usual stealing of sensitive technology, Ratcliffe disclosed that the communist regime is doing human testing to develop biologically enhanced soldiers. Right, super soldiers. Ratcliffe didn't go into details about what those features were. From what I've gathered from my sources, those enhanced features may include much sharper eyesight and hearing, night vision, no or very little feeling of pain, and a quicker recovery from injuries. Remember Captain America? We all know, of course. It is coming true. The big difference is there will be a lot of them, minus the freedom-loving spirit, as they would all be working for dictators. To many, modifying human beings into purpose-built creatures is beyond conscience. How many of those young men and possibly young women might have gotten hurt and cast away in the process? Well, to help you understand the mindset and the tactics behind all these shady activities, I have to introduce to you a book called Unrestricted Warfare. It was written more than 20 years ago by 2 colonels in the People's Liberation Army, Qiao Liang and Wang Xiangsui. The book is also known as China's Master Plan to Destroy America, or other leading democracies for that matter. The authors outlined unconventional ways for a military or for a militarily disadvantaged state to incapacitate a superpower like the United States, including international policy, economic warfare, control of media, attacks on digital infrastructure and networks, and terrorism. Yep, you heard me right. Terrorism was considered an acceptable alternative to conventional warfare needed to dominate the world. The book is available on Amazon. It is a required reading at West Point these days. If you have time, check it out. It will help you understand better about some of the things that are going on today. In more recent years, one specific strategy was developed. It is called the Civil-Military Integration Strategy. In plain words, it is the official blurring of the lines between the military and the civilian world. In research, in personnel, or what have you, civilians are to assist and protect the military in China. It is usually the other way around in other countries, but this is China we're talking about, communist China. The idea was raised by current President Xi Jinping in 2012, promoted 3 years later as a national strategy. Then in 2017, Xi Jinping became the head of the Committee on Civil-Military Integration Strategy. This just goes to show you the determination of the regime on making the strategy work. Since then, At least 50 universities in China have joined the integration strategy. Previously, only 7 of them were affiliated to the Chinese Liberation Army. This has led the Trump administration to restrict student visas issued to Chinese students. In the meantime, 2 US lawmakers have introduced a bill that seeks to deny visas to Chinese citizens who want to participate in graduate level or postgraduate level coursework or academic research in the field of science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, in a United States college or university. As you can imagine, this strategy of civilian-military integration has severely hurt the ability of ordinary Chinese citizens of seeking better education and better job prospects overseas, because they cannot secure, or at least very, very difficult for them to secure a visa, a student visa, or a job overseas. To some extent, this also has a very negative impact on all ethnic Chinese living overseas, many of whom work in scientific or research-related fields. But that doesn't seem to bother the regime as they continue full steam ahead with the integration strategy. Here is what the China Daily said. Implementing the strategy of military-civilian integration is a prerequisite for realizing the party's goal of building a strong military in the new era. So basically, it is all good for the party. This integration strategy prioritizes research in areas including sea, space, internet, biology, new energy, and artificial intelligence. I want to talk more specifically about the field of biology. The Chinese military is sponsoring research on gene editing, human performance enhancement, and could be at the forefront of these fields. According to Major General He Fuchu, biotech is the strategic commanding heights of national defense, from biomaterials to brain control weapons. Retired General Zhang Shibo said specific ethnic genetic attacks could possibly be used. The Chinese government has been collecting DNA from tens of millions of men and boys in China, including all Uyghurs. They said it will help them track down criminals. Some believed it was for stronger surveillance, while others believed there was more to the story. China saw the first ever head transplant on a human corpse in 2017. I don't know if you know about it. It was carried out by an Italian professor, Canavera, and a Chinese doctor, Ren Xiaoping. The surgery took place in China because no American or European institute would permit such an operation, as this naturally raised many profound ethical questions. In explaining how they decided to perform this experiment in China, Professor Canavero told the South China Morning Post, Chinese President Xi Jinping wants to restore China to greatness by providing a home for such cutting-edge work. Among other concerns, many are worried about the source of the bodies. China has a troubling history of using executed prisoners and live prisoners of conscience as their body supply for transplants. Engineering biologically enhanced soldiers is utterly unethical, but at least tests were done to adults. But did you know that the Chinese government allowed scientists to edit genes of babies? A Chinese scientist claimed in 2018 at a conference in Hong Kong that they created 2 babies who were naturally immune to HIV. The Chinese scientists used a technique called CRISPR and edit the genes in the embryos. The experiment and the scientists were condemned by the international science community for their recklessness and a complete lack of morals. HIV is not a hereditary disease, and there are effective treatments for pregnant women infected with HIV. This is why some scientists suspected that this experiment was done for the sake of research, not for providing a medical solution. The main researcher was in the end jailed by the Chinese authority under international pressure. However, the Chinese research paper erased the names of medical doctors attending to the couples who participated in the experiment and changed the date of birth of the babies, making it impossible for people to track them down to see how they were doing. COVID-19, as we know, originated in Wuhan. That's where the Wuhan Institute of Virology is located. The lab is now headed by Major General Wei Chen of the People's Liberation Army. She is a top expert of biological weapons. Knowing what the Chinese regime is capable of, does that make you think twice about the origin of COVID-19? Going back to the public intelligence briefing Ratcliffe gave, I think the Director of National Intelligence is prepping America for some serious actions against the CCP. My guess is we will hear more similar talks from the Trump administration as they are getting ready to fight back and hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable for their actions. Well, this is it for today. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you have, please subscribe and turn on your notification for future episodes. Thank you and see you next time.